dropping her kids off at a daycare in Winona. Her sister Megan began posting on TikTok asking for the public's help in finding her sister.
My sister is still missing. Police and law enforcement are obviously still searching. We just can't figure out where she is.
Then on April 7th, a massive crowd, more than 1,800 people, turned out for a 2-day search for Kingsbury. They covered a large stretch of southeastern Minnesota, but nothing was found. On April 12th, nearly 2 weeks after Kingsbury vanished, Adam Fravel, the father of Kingsbury's 2 children, puts out a statement through his attorneys denying any involvement in her disappearance. He said, quote, "During these last 12 days, I have cooperated with law enforcement at every turn, including sitting down for multiple interviews with Winona County law enforcement. I did not have anything to do with Maddie's disappearance. I want the mother of my 5-year-old and 2-year-old to be found and brought home safely. I want that more than anything." End quote. On June 5th, Fravel filed for custody of his 2 children with Kingsbury. A Winona County judge denied his petition, ordering the children to stay with Kingsbury's parents, who had been caring for them since the beginning of April. Just 2 days later, on June 7th, Fravel was taken into custody and was held at the Winona County Jail on suspicion of second-degree murder. The Winona Police Department said human remains were found earlier in the day in some brush off Highway 43 near the town of Mabel, which is about an hour south of Winona near the Iowa border. The next day, June 8th, the Winona Police Department confirms the human remains found were of Madeline Kingsbury. Fravel was charged on June 9th with 2 counts of second-degree murder in Kingsbury's death. Nearly 4 months pass as lawyers prepare for trial. On October 2nd, it's announced that 2 of Fravel's charges were upgraded to first-degree murder. This is after new evidence alleged Kingsbury had reported Fravel's abuse to friends and family, warning others that if something terrible happened to her, he would be the one responsible. Then on April 30th of the next year, a Winona judge considered whether or not Adam Fravel would be fairly tried in Winona County. The defense argued there was a need to move the case out of Winona County due to the worry over the seating of an impartial jury. The judge approves the motion, and the trial is officially moved to a Mankato courtroom on August 21st. Finally, on October 17th, 2024, 2 months ago today, the trial begins. It lasted for 3 weeks. Prosecutors brought 68 witnesses to the stand, including Kingsbury's parents, law enforcement investigators, and forensic scientists. Fravel's defense team called on 5 witnesses in total, including 2 law enforcement officers, Fravel's brother, neighbors of the couple's home in Winona, and Fravel's parents from Mabel. Fravel did not testify in his own defense. After 2 days and 10 hours of deliberations, on November 7th, the jury announced Fravel's verdict, finding him guilty on all charges. Those exact charges are as follows: first-degree murder with premeditation, first-degree murder while engaging in domestic abuse with a past pattern of domestic abuse, second-degree murder without premeditation, and second-degree murder unintentional while committing a felony. WCCO's Jason Rantala is covering this story for us today. He just sent me this.
Sorry, I'm just going to pause it for a moment just to let you know, hi to everyone. I've just tried to make about 10 comments and they've been rejected. It's really weird. But anyway, I just wanted to say, yeah, it's been a day of justice today, or a morning of justice as far as Sarah was concerned this morning. You know, and that has been a tough case to follow, hasn't it? But it's good to see those sentences. And this, for anyone who doesn't know this case, because maybe if you've not been following me for a long time, because this happened around about the time of the Nicola Bulley case. That's how long ago this was. And it took quite a while to find Madeline, but finally they found her body. This happened in Minnesota in the USA. And in the end, they did find her and they did arrest her partner. And I've done quite a few videos on it. And recently, you know, if you put in Madeline's name in my search, in my channel, you will come up with the videos that I did about her before. Anyway, he's been found guilty, and today is his sentencing day, and I'm hoping for longer than we saw this morning, because of course in America we're hoping for life without parole. I can't see that it can be anything but that, really, but you know, you never know.
This update from outside the courtroom.
We're at the Winona County Courthouse, where we'll soon learn Adam Fravel's fate after he was found guilty in the murder of Madeline Kingsbury last month. But before that sentence is read, we're expecting to hear some emotional victim impact statements from friends and family. Kingsbury went missing in March 2023 after dropping off the 2 children she shared with Fravel at a Winona daycare. Fravel was arrested 2 months later when Kingsbury's remains were found near the Iowa border. Throughout the trial, prosecutors focused on accusations of domestic abuse at the hands of Fravel during a 7-year relationship. One of the charges Fravel was convicted on carries a mandatory life sentence. You can watch everything that happens in court here on CBS News Minnesota and on WCCO's YouTube page. In Winona, Jason Rantala, WCCO News.
And Jason Rantala is now inside the courtroom. He will be sending us updates through his laptop. Cameras and cell phones are not allowed except for one camera, which is the one you see right now. Jason will have his laptop and be sending us updates throughout it, as well as you watch it with us live. Now, we also want to remind you of some of the critical clues that tied Adam Fravel to Kingsbury's death. The rural property where a deputy found her was maintained by Fravel's family and near his parents' home in a town called Mabel. Fravel admitted to driving their van in that area the day Maddie disappeared. Her body was wrapped in a bedsheet with tape that investigators connected to their home. The charges say Fravel also told investigators that he was, quote, infatuated with the Gabby Petito case. That story made national headlines after Petito vanished on a road trip with her boyfriend in Wyoming and in Utah. And he confessed to killing Petito in a notebook before taking his own life. Here in Minnesota, a witness told police Fravel had warned Maddie that if she did not listen up, she would end up, quote, like Petito. Fravel admitted that, but called it a joke. Now, all this evidence led to a jury finding the 30-year-old Adam Fravel guilty on 4 counts of murder. Now, as we mentioned earlier, the ruling came down in a Mankato courtroom last month. WCCO's Jason Rantala was there and saw the reactions from Kingsbury's loved ones at the time. Take a look.
Who are we going to say loud for? Maddie!
Thursday marked a huge weight being lifted for friends and family of 26-year-old Madeline Kingsbury.
There's no joy here, but we're glad of the result.
After 30-year-old Adam Fravel was found guilty of 1st and 2nd-degree murder.
We've lost a daughter, mother, aunt, sister. Children are scarred.
It was back in March 2023 when Kingsbury went missing after dropping off the 2 children she shared with Fravel at a Winona daycare. Fravel was arrested and charged 2 days later after Kingsbury's remains were found near Fravel's family property not far from the Iowa border. Domestic violence a focal point throughout the trial. Family testified that Fravel strangled Kingsbury in front of their children, one of several domestic violence accusations throughout a 7-year relationship.
You know, the jury and the state struck a blow for abused women today.
A disappointing finish, and family's tremendously emotional. Obviously, Mr. Fravel's tremendously emotional.
I can't say enough appreciation for the jury in this case, the Blue.
I mean, it was a good result, you know, and we saw, we've watched about the trial and everything. Adam is, you know, thinks he's a criminal mastermind, thinks the police, he sort of fooled the police, and of course he didn't. And it was great that Madeline was recovered, at least, and brought home to her family. And as one of the family said earlier, it's not joy, is it? You know, it's not like they're getting out the champagne or whatever, because Madeline is deceased and gone, and she's been taken away from her children, who have now lost their father as well, though that's probably not much of a loss, to be honest. But Madeline is a big loss to those children. So yeah, it's bittersweet. All these things are bittersweet. it's good that he was found guilty, and hopefully he'll get the maximum sentence. He's not going to get the death sentence because I don't think they have it in that state, but life without parole, that's what hopefully he is going to get. Because it's not only, what he did, it was the hiding a body and all that kind of thing, and, lying to the police, trying to get custody of the kids, etc.
Berth County jury. They're attentive throughout the trial.
Family members say plans are in the works for the Madeline Kingsbury Foundation to support domestic violence victims. They have these words for those going through what Kingsbury did.
Don't be embarrassed. There's no shame. It's not your fault. There's help. There's resources. People care about you.
In Mankato, Jason Rantala, WCCO News.
All right, here's a live look inside the courtroom again in Winona. And as you can see, the only shot that's up right now is a shot of the door that we know Adam Fravel will be coming out of. You can hear a little bit more chatter going on in the background. You can deduce that people are in the courtroom now and proceedings should begin soon. They are set to begin in about 4 minutes at 1:45 p.m. We will continue to wait to see if that starts on time, but those exact charges that Fravel was found guilty of are first-degree murder with premeditation, first-degree murder while engaging in domestic abuse and with a pattern of domestic abuse, second-degree murder without premeditation, and second-degree murder unintentional while committing a felony. Now, after Madeline's body was discovered, WCCO's Alan Henry took a look at what charging documents revealed about the investigation. Maddie Kingsbury was looking to start a new chapter in her life, in a new place, with a new place to live and a new budding relationship. Alan spoke with domestic violence prevention advocates on the warning signs to watch out for and what you can do to help loved ones in violent relationships. Take a look.
Minnesota averages around 25 intimate partner homicides a year.
Violence Free Minnesota says Maddie Kingsbury is the 12th victim of intimate partner homicide this year. Her ex, Adam Fravel, is now charged with second-degree murder. The complaint contains several allegations of abuse. A friend of Maddie's says while on a video call, Fravel hit her in the face with his hand. And in September 20...
Yeah. Right, on a video call. So, you know that whatever somebody does in front of people, whatever they do behind closed doors when nobody's watching will be 10 times worse. So if he hit her openly while she was on a video call with her friend, what was he doing to her behind the scenes?
2021, Maddie texted Fravel telling him to stop putting his hands around her neck and pushing her down in front of their 2 young kids, saying, not okay with it all, but especially with them there. Fravel responded saying, you'll adjust.
And remember, in Minnesota, if you choke someone, that's automatically a felony. So this case is going to revolve a lot around prior instances of domestic abuse.
Violence Free Minnesota says there are 4 risk factors in abusive relationships that could lead to a homicide: history of violence, threats to kill, access to firearms, and leaving the relationship.
3 of those, so threats to kill, history of...
Thank you, Sefi. That's very kind. Thank you so much. I'll have a look in a minute who's got
violence
them.
And leaving the relationship. Those were all present in Madeline's case.
And Maddie was leaving the relationship. The report says they decided to separate and were in the process of moving out of their Winona residence.
If a person leaves a relationship, the abuser no longer has power and control over them. And at the worst case scenario, they will then kill the victim in an ultimate act of power and control.
The organization says it's important not to judge Maddie Kingsbury for being with someone she was trying to escape.
If you have children with an abuser, it's going to make it exponentially harder to leave that relationship. People are out there who will support you and will help you access safety. There are domestic violence programs and resources.
Now, we want to remind you that if you or someone you know needs help, a safety plan, or even just helping plan that, it's all free and confidential. Help is available at 1-800-799-SAFE. That's 1-800-799-SAFE. Okay, here's a live look again into the courtroom. We just saw Adam Fravel's defense lawyer, Zach Bauer. He was looking over his notes, and there's a lot of commotion going on, even more so than a couple of minutes ago. It's 1:45 right now, and that is when the judge is set to begin in this case. We know the judge. The judge is Nancy Beitendorf. We know that she was appointed in 2008 by Governor Tim Pawlenty. She's worked at J.D. Hamlin's, or she got her education at J.D. Hamlin University School of Law in St. Paul. You can see here Zach Bauer, Adam Fravel's defense attorney, setting up his laptop and getting ready for the sentencing hearing to take place. Let's look in live as we wait for the sentencing of Adam Fravel to take place. They look like they're about to begin any minute now.
I just want to say thanks again before this starts. Now, I have to go and pick up number one's son in a bit. I'm not sure what time yet. If I do have to go and get him, it won't take long. I will pause and come back.
Let's take a look in.
Well, here he is. Oh, is he smiling? Is he actually smiling? I couldn't sit next to him if I was that woman. I just couldn't. No, you know, honestly, we've said this before. I know he's got to have a defense lawyer. I know that's his constitutional right or whatever, but I just couldn't do it. Sorry, I couldn't. Anyway, looks like he's been eating well in prison, doesn't he?
Yeah.
So he's going to have to sit. He's going to have to sit and listen to the victim impact statements, etc. Good. Now, you know, the actual trial itself was not televised. The family didn't want it televised, to be fair. They wanted it to be private, but they did want his sentencing to be broadcast. So good. Have you noticed as well, these defense lawyers, I think they deliberately try and block it. She should move out of the way, let people watch it. You know, he should have this humiliation. He should have the humiliation. Yeah, move away. Move away. I hope he sees Madeline's face in his dreams every night. when he tries to go sleep. I hope she haunts him, bless her. You're never going to be free again, Adam. He's like a toad, this guy. It reminds me of a toad of Toad Hall.
I'm sorry.
Move your head out the way. Move your head out the way. I just want to glare at him. No, he doesn't even know. Well, I'm sure he knows that people are watching all over the world, that it's being televised. I just want to really glare at him. You know, a horrible person.
You're taking a live look in the Winona courtroom where the sentencing of Adam Fravel is about to take place. Let's go live there now.
Winona County is now in session. The other Nancy Byfield presiding.
You may be seated.
Oh, it's a female judge. Yes.
Right, we'll have the clerk call the case.
Calling State of Minnesota versus Adam Taylor Fravel, 85 CR 23937.
Right, and for the record, you are Adam Taylor Fravel, date of birth January 29, 1994.
Sounds right.
Right. Mr. Fravel, as you know, last month a jury convicted you of 2 counts of murder in the first degree and 2 counts of murder in the second degree. At that time, the court ordered a pre-sentence investigation report, victim impact statements, and a sentencing worksheet. Those documents have now been filed with the court. Mr. Bauer, did you receive copies of those documents?
Yeah, we received copies of the pre-sentence investigation, the sentencing worksheet, and the victim impact statements.
I'll note for the record that Ms. Doken is also present in the courtroom. Also present in the courtroom is Ms. Sonneman, County Attorney, Mr. Popakowitz, and Ms. Gillespie. Ms. Sonneman, did the state receive copies of those sentencing documents?
We did as well, Your Honor, and I've reviewed those.
It's my understanding that some of the victim impact statements will be read in court. Is that right?
That's correct, Your Honor. We're prepared to ask the court to allow the several of the family members to read their impact statements. And then our crime victim services coordinator, Diana Miller, will read 2 of those statements from the family members. So we're ready for that.
All right, you can proceed with that then.
Thank you, Your Honor. The first to read her impact statement will be Madeline Kingsbury's mother, Krista.
Okay, so our mum's coming out to read the first victim impact statement. Wonder where Adam will be looking, because of course he knew all the family and everything. Oh my God, she'll have waited to this day to face him and tell him. Oh.
Good afternoon.
Please state your name for the record.
Krista Hultgren.
Ms. Hultgren, whenever you're ready, go ahead.
Thank you, Your Honor. The defendant could have stopped, but he didn't. He could have treated Madeline like the extraordinary person she was, but he didn't. He could have given Maddie and the kids a good life, but he didn't. Instead, he treated her like she was nothing and made her very existence miserable. He made her feel unlovable, and then he snuffed the life out of her.
Gosh.
He ripped her from her children, her family, and her friends. All Madeline wanted was a good life with someone who would love her and the kids unconditionally. And she wanted Adam to continue to be involved in the kids' lives regardless if they were together or not. She felt bad for him, but she couldn't make herself fall in love with someone who treated her like she was nothing. She wanted and deserved more. The defendant never owned the right to keep Madeline isolated away, and he certainly didn't own the right to end her life. He has ruined so many lives, and he took my child from me. I don't understand why he thought killing her was the only option. There were so many opportunities to do something different. The only thing Madeline's children will know about him when they're old enough to understand is what kind of a deplorable human being he turned out to be. Excuse me. Madeline posted a picture on March 26, 2023, of her daughter enjoying birthday cake on her 5th birthday. We were all there. How sickening that just days later, Madeline was gone. And no, I had only recently weaned from nursing and was barely 2 years old. I will never forget that gut feeling or pit in my stomach on March 31st, 2023. I knew something was terribly wrong when I hadn't heard from Madeline all day. Little did I know that this was only the beginning of the end. I have been unable to work for much of the past 19 months due to mental and physical health issues caused by the defendant's action. I see how the defendant's action has rained catastrophic grief on Madeline's other mom, Kathy, and her father, David, and yet they have persevered and continued to provide a loving home for Madeline's children. Madeline's siblings, Megan, Stephen, and Holly, have had to deal with insurmountable sadness, yet continue to carry on with strength and resilience. The defendant's sentence is far from satisfying. It does not bring me joy. It does not ease my pain and suffering. However, a life sentence is just. He will need to live without his children, his family, his friends, his conveniences. He will live with what he did, and I pray he feels the weight of that for life. I continue to live my worst nightmare over and over again. There is no peace, no reassurance, no happy ending. Instead, Madeline's kids will grow up without their mommy, and we go on as best as possible without our daughter, sister, friend, and aunt. The wake he has left is far-reaching and hardly slows to a ripple. It will never be still. I will never understand why Adam took Madeline's life. There can never be an answer to satisfy that question. I will do my best to advocate for those in need of safety and protection, to love Madeline's children, and to be a good human and to heal in the best way possible. Thank you.
Ms. Sonneman?
The next
Bless her. I would have liked to have seen his face through that because, you know, we didn't get to see what he's probably just looking down, you know, but anyway. Okay, so that was a mum. She was very dignified, bless her. You did just no words, is there really, how that must feel. It's good to think at least he was caught, but still doesn't bring Madeline back.
individual to give is one of Madeline Kingsbury's sisters.
So, did you say one of his sisters now is coming?
Will you please state your name for the record?
Holly Waterston.
Go ahead whenever you're ready.
Good afternoon, Your Honor. My name is Holly Waterston, and Maddie is my stepsister through my mom, Kathy Kingsbury's marriage to Dave Kingsbury. I am here today to talk about the impact Maddie's disappearance, murder, and subsequent trial has had not only on me, but especially on the children of our family. It is impossible to describe all the pieces, infinite and complex, that make up our losses. We all now live on a shattered timeline of life. There was a giant fissure, a crack, on March 31st, 2023. Our lives will forever be defined in terms of before Maddie went missing and after. None of us will ever be the same people we were before this horrific nightmare started. Maddie was a deeply caring and thoughtful sister. She not only welcomed me with open arms to my family, but also had a special bond with my biological sister, Heather. After a lifelong battle with a rare autoimmune disease, Heather lost her life to leukemia.
Oh.
Her funeral was on June 7th, 2012, where Maddie shared a beautiful and compassionate poem she wrote to honor Heather. Exactly 11 years later, on June 7th, 2023, Maddie's body was found.
Oh.
Two of my sisters dead. The sorrow I feel is massive and often too much to bear. I miss both Heather and Maddie equally. Their deaths have left equal-sized holes in my heart. However, there's a profound difference in the layers of suffering, anguish, and trauma between when a sister dies of a disease and when a sister goes missing for over 2 months, is found violently murdered, and then having to uphold her dignity during an arduous journey to justice. Maddie was an amazing aunt to my 3 daughters and to my other stepsister Katya's 2 young children.
It looks like there's a little bit of disruption in the connection right now, but you're listening to Maddie's stepsister, Holly Waterston, giving her victim impact statement. I'm hoping the connection, here we go.
To no one's surprise, Maddie was often at the center of this cousin crew, being the energetic, fun, creative mom and aunt that we all knew her to be. I miss my conversations with Maddie about navigating the intertwining joys and struggles of raising our little humans. Maddie brought an enormous amount of light and laughter to our lives. Backyard games, pool parties at Grandpa and Gaggy's house, and family celebrations will never be the same. Throughout the course of the trial, we heard a lot about Adam's cloak of innocence. Today, on this day of sentencing, I ask the court to reflect on what Adam's actions have done to the children in our family. The children in our family don't get to walk through their young lives shrouded in a cloak of childhood innocence anymore. It was ripped from each of their tiny shoulders, stomped on, shredded, destroyed. My youngest twin daughter talks a lot about missing Maddie, how it's not fair Maddie was killed, and how Maddie didn't deserve what happened to her. One of the most difficult questions she asks is, why would Adam do this to someone he had kids with and said he loved? It is this question and its answer that gets to the heart of the most insidious secret truth within our society: domestic abuse and violence. It is a question I agonize over, and it is one that keeps me awake at night. My middle daughter, my youngest twin, had an immensely difficult time during the trial. She was often in tears, asking me things like, why did Adam do this? Why did he kill Maddie? Why didn't he tell people he did this so people didn't have to search for her? Why doesn't he tell people now so everyone doesn't have to be at the trial? The question of why remains for us all. It is a simple word with an endless ability to cut at our hearts, because it has no answer that will ever be sufficient. My youngest daughter always wants to know, how was Maddie killed? She is not satisfied with an answer of, Adam made Maddie stop breathing. She wants to know exactly how. She wants the details. There's no room for the gray space within my answers to her questions. She also repeatedly asks, is Adam still in jail? The underlying unspoken questions here, of course, are, am I safe?
Oh.
Can it happen to me? During one of our cousin's sleepovers, my youngest daughter and Maddie's son, Noah, came into my room, both of their little faces streaked with tears. My youngest daughter told me through her sobs, Noah woke me up. He is crying and asking for his mommy.
Oh.
As a parent of young children, I am no stranger to middle of the night wake-ups or kids being scared or worried. I am supposed to simply be able to explain that monsters aren't real, that they don't live under our beds or in our homes. I'm supposed to be able to add another nightlight, maybe make some homemade monster spray, and hug their fears away as they drift off to sleep, forgetting their nightmare by daybreak. Nothing prepared me to try to comfort my nephew, who will never again be able to see, hear, or hug his mommy, because there is, in fact, a real-life monster who killed his mommy. I feel it is a nightmare that little Noah may never be able to escape, because the reality for him is that this monster and his father are one and the same.
Yeah.
With young children involved, we don't have the privilege of pretending that the darkest and most difficult days are behind us. The generational trauma will likely be repeated in waves throughout the years, as each child eventually learns and struggles to process the entirety of the horrific truth and the gruesome details behind Maddie's disappearance and brutal murder. For me, the emotional burden I carry weighs heavily on my heart. I often robotically and mechanically go through the routine of life, searching for a sense of normalcy. I've been left with an inability to truly accept joy. I am often flooded with a feeling of triviality that seeps into the far reaches of my existence. My support system is largely comprised of friends and family who have also been deeply impacted. Previously sturdy core relationships and dynamics have been innately changed. This is especially true with my mom, who is now raising children younger than my own and who no longer has the ability or capacity to be there for me or my kids in the same way she was before March 31st, 2023. I grieve for the connection, closeness, and memories that have been lost or never made. I haven't yet figured out how to incorporate this tragedy into my everyday life, even though I know I must. There are days when there are glimmers of hope, days when I can walk gracefully, holding hands with both my grief and my gratitude. However, there are many days where I stumble, and there are roadblocks I must continue to face. Even simply driving my kids to school can be triggering. On one road, there is culvert after culvert after culvert. Immediately, all I can see in my mind are flashbacks of Maddie's short, brown curly hair poking out of the top of the fitted sheet. Flashbacks of multiple law enforcement officers pulling Maddie out of the culvert where she was inhumanely stuffed and hidden. Flashbacks to the towel, tied, slip knotted, extremely tightly around her face. I try in vain to forget the surreal feeling I had as I watched the horrific video unfold in the courtroom. It was as though my body had separated from itself. I attempt to hold back the feelings of devastation I had the day Maddie was found. I cannot help but feel heartbroken about how scared and desperate Maddie must have been in her final moments of life. Those images, those feelings, that knowledge, they are not anything I will ever forget. As painful as it all is, they are also not something that should ever be forgotten. Adam needs to be held accountable. Adam's actions were disgusting, sickening, and particularly cruel. On the morning of March 31st, 2023, Adam seemingly felt entitled to unilaterally impart a death sentence on Maddie. Simultaneously, Adam gave each of us a life sentence as well. There's no parole for any of us to be released from this nightmare. This is forever our unthinkable reality. I am asking, pleading with the court today to follow through with mandatory and maximum sentencing for Adam. Life in prison with no possibility of parole. Thank you, Your Honor.
Gosh, that was impactful, wasn't it? Especially when she was saying about the culvert and what, you know, because of course she sat through the trial, saw the videos of Maddie being taken out of the culvert where luckily she was found, where he just stuffed her like she was a bit of rubbish. So every time she goes past the culvert, it's like you'd think of it, wouldn't you? I think he's got to get life without parole. He's got to. Let's hope so anyway.
Ms. Sonneman.
Your Honor, the next individual will be David Kingsbury, the father of Madeline Kingsbury.
Yeah, this is Maggie's father now, yeah. Look at his face. He's just looking down, but he doesn't really look remorseful, does he? You know, you'd think he'd be crying, really. I mean, what's he thinking about? Is he thinking about how he murdered her, wrapped a towel around her head and suffocated her, strangled her? Yeah, she must have been terrified that he towed. Oh, God. There's the dad.
Good afternoon, Your Honor.
Good afternoon, Mr. Kingsbury.
For the record, my name is David Kingsbury. I'm Madeline's father. I have to think that there are a few things that's truly difficult to bear as the death of your child. The exception being that child brutally and senselessly murdered. It's an almost intolerable weight. Each morning, my mind painfully adjusts to the realization that it's not just a bad dream. Madeline is still really dead, and Adam Fravel killed her. My family bears it because we have to go on, but there's no avoiding the terrible anger, the tears, the gut-wrenching grief, the inevitable woulda, coulda, shouldas, and the unanswerable question, how could someone do this? Especially to someone as special as Madeline. The facts laid bare that she was attacked and killed by a coward twice her size, someone who she had once loved. She had made the audacious decision that she didn't deserve to be used or abused by him anymore. With that decision, her future was now looking bright, whereas life with him had been bleak and miserable. Unfortunately, she fatally misjudged him. When he realized that he couldn't control or manipulate her any longer, he decided to kill her. He thought, incredibly, he'd run home to his parents' house and apparently just wait it out. He thought no one would care about what happened to Madeline. No one would be the wiser. She'd just fade into memory while he'd get away with murder. There's really no words to adequately describe what impact this has had. I've experienced many things that will stay with me always. With a few examples, you can perhaps put yourself in my place. 69 days spent searching desperately for her. Nights staring out into the darkness, wondering where she was. Wondering if she was alive or dead, and wondering if we would ever find her. Then informing my family that our beloved daughter and sister was found dead. Learning that her body had been found wrapped in a sheet, stuffed in a culvert, covered with brush at the end of a dead-end road. Finally located because the sheriff's deputy was alerted by an unusually large gathering of flies. Authoring my youngest child's obituary. Telling my grandchildren they'd never see their mommy again because their father had hurt her so badly that she died. For my final goodbye to my beautiful daughter, I held her, talked to her, sung to her, and promised we'd get her justice. She was in a body bag. Megan wanted to see her sister's body. I begged and prevailed on her not to do so. Better to remember.
Wow, Jean, thank you so much. Thank you. That's very kind. Thank you. Wow.
Maddie as she was. Not an awful sight that would scar her psyche forever. I ordered an immediate cremation. Meanwhile, we were engaged in a very public and hotly contested court battle with Fravel for custody of Maddie's children. Though he was finally arrested and charged with her murder, this litigation continued. Moments before a video hearing began, the court's camera was live. He noticed. We were on the video feed. Locked eyes with my wife and I, and smirked at us. Smirked. At that moment, his true nature revealed. Resolute cruelty and pure evil. For me, certain proof that he killed Madeline, proof that he was glad he did it, and proof that he derives great pleasure from the carnage, destruction, and the grief he's caused. His only regret was being held accountable. The crocodile tears he shed in the courtroom the day the guilty verdicts came in were for himself. No remorse for what he's done to Madeline, to Ellie, and Noah, or the people that love them.
This father is like really making an impact as well, isn't he? Because he's calm as he's saying. I don't know how he's staying calm, and just what he's saying about Adam and how he sort of almost enjoyed it. Like you said, he was smirking and he thought he was so clever, didn't he? Thought he was so clever, taking that mother away from the children. We watched the video, didn't we, of her arriving at the daycare centre with Adam, and then Adam going back on his own later, and the dog barking at him as he went in. And he was smirking then, he was full of it then. In that time in between, dropping those kids off and going to pick them up, he had murdered their mother.
A word of thanks. Without the dedication of law enforcement, the efforts of thousands of community volunteers, the hard work of the county attorney's office and this court, he'd still be free and would most likely have the children. Madeline will still be in that culvert.
Yeah.
Deep in the woods at the end.
Yeah, because he was fighting. He went to court. He was fighting for the children. I wonder if his sister's going to make a statement, because of course she thinks he's innocent. His sister.
End of a dead end road. My family owes a debt we can never repay. One of my greatest fears when Madeline disappeared was that no one would care. Thank God that wasn't true. She would send me messages, and it always came up on my phone that it was from the world's greatest kid. She truly was. And always will be the apple of my eye. Her name is Maddie.
Oh.
Thank you.
Oh. Oh my God. Oh, good.
Ms. Sonneman.
Your Honor, the next individual will be Megan Kingsbury Hancock, who is Madeline Kingsbury's sister.
Oh, so this is Megan, another one of his sisters. Now, Megan, she is on TikTok. She's made quite a lot of statements on TikTok. I have messaged her on there. She's very gracious, and she has replied. You know, because TikTok is going to be banned, isn't it, in America? And she's quite upset because she was, you know, she's TikToked about Madeline, but she was saying she made a video saying how much she enjoys TikTok, not just because of, obviously she's been on there talking about Madeline, but she always was on there. She, you know, she likes to go on there for something I'd never thought of with TikTok, like recipes or to find, you know, other things and that. She made a really nice video about how but she's still going to be on Instagram and things like that. She obviously doesn't, she's not a YouTuber, but she likes to do videos about recipes and makeup and stuff like that. But yeah, TikTok is going to be banned in America. So, yeah, that'll be interesting. Okay, so we're going to listen to Megan now. It looks a little bit remorseful there, but not that much, does he? So we'll hear what Megan's got to say. Bless her.
Will you please state your full name for the record?
Yes, Megan Hancock.
Thank you.
Trying to describe how my sister
Madeline Jane Kingsbury's murder has impacted me is impossible, and it will always be impossible. Living through the experience of having a loved one being an endangered missing person for 69 days until they are ultimately found dead, discarded in the wilderness, wrapped and duct taped into a bed sheet. How do I tell you how that has impacted me? For many days and nights while Madeline was missing, myself and my family, we couldn't eat, we couldn't sleep, could hardly look at each other or speak to one another. We were robotic. Before Madeline was found, those 69 days were absolute torture. The world continues around you. People go to work, they run their errands, they go on vacation, they spend time with their kids, but you're there frozen in time. Life doesn't continue for you until you've completed the mission that you're on, and that was to find Madeline. For months, we lived out of hotels and suitcases. I was out of work. We were away from our homes, our friends, any sense of normalcy. My days consisted of news and law enforcement interviews, trying to map out areas in the wilderness to search, endless cups of coffee in place of food, many tears, very late nights, maybe 3 hours of sleep, and then getting up to do it all over again. Our days were spent in fields and marshes, by rivers and creeks, in the bluffs and in forests, looking for any sign of Madeline. I watched my parents crumble and disintegrate and turn into shadows of themselves. Their eyes having that 1,000-yard stare and just empty, not knowing what to say or do and just being at a complete loss. How do I tell you what it's like to have Madeline's children have to tell them that we don't know where their mommy is and that she's lost? How do you explain that to two kids that are so young? How do you explain to them that they can't ever go back to the home that they knew and they will never live with their parents again? I was not the one to ultimately tell the children that their mother died. My father and stepmother took that burden, but I've certainly been there for the questions and the wonderings of a 3 and a 6-year-old, both about their mother and their father. I've been there to hear my 6-year-old niece say that mommy was too young to die. And I will always remember exactly where in my home I was sitting when my dad told us all that remains had been found, and they were 99% sure that they belonged to my sister Madeline. I'll always remember how I fell to the floor and I'll always remember the absolute feeling of emptiness in the days and weeks after. And how do I tell you what it was like to drive with my dad to accompany Madeline's remains to the funeral home where she would ultimately be cremated? I was in the same vehicle as her. She was right there. How could she be that person in the body bag right behind me? How can that be true? And how can I tell you what it was like to try to have a semblance of a goodbye through that body bag? Watching my father collapse under her and say how sorry he was over and over again, and singing "You Are My Sunshine" to her one last time.
Oh.
I'll never forget the sounds he made of grief and sorrow. How can I tell you what it was like to feel how much of her was already gone, to hold her hand through the body bag, to know that she was right there? To know that if I did see her,
That wouldn't be her anymore. How can I tell you what it was like to accompany her right to the end, helping to guide her into the incinerator because we refused to let her be alone anymore? I can't tell you what it was like. It's indescribable. In the aftermath, trying to piece my life back together, many aspects of my daily life and my being have been affected. I couldn't get a proper night's sleep. I still can't. I could hardly leave the house. I rarely spoke to anyone. I wasn't caring for myself on a base level. Intrusive thoughts, flashbacks. I started trauma therapy and was diagnosed with PTSD. This has affected my job and my ability to work as before, affected my physical, my mental health, my relationships with my husband, my family, and my friends. I was recently married, an event my sister Madeline should have been present for. She should have been there for the dress shopping, the planning. She should have been there standing right beside me as my maid of honor. And though my wedding day was one of my happiest days, but it was also one of my hardest. I didn't want to get married without her, but that choice was made for me by somebody else. That's one of the worst parts, is that we have no choice. Madeline is gone. Every holiday, every special event, every milestone, we have no choice. We have to carry on without her. The defendant made the choice to take her life, which he had no right to do. He made the choice to rob the children of their mother and consequently of their father as well. Sometimes, not very often, I do think of the defendant, and I've never truly hated anyone before. Some people have the ability to forgive and believe that it frees them and lessens their burden, and I can appreciate that. I will never forgive what he has done. And of course, I will never forget. And some would say that my hatred will eat me alive. I would disagree. The amount of space that the defendant holds in my mind is so small, it's minuscule even. The amount of space in my mind and my heart that I hold for Madeline is exponentially larger. The amount of pure love I held and still hold for my sister, Madeline, far outweighs the hatred that I feel. And the defendant will most likely proclaim his innocence for the rest of his life. Myself and my family and friends of Madeline do not need him to admit it because we all know the truth. Perhaps the defendant is happy with what has become of my family and what has become of Madeline, and to that I would say this. We are not broken. Madeline will forever be remembered and loved. Her children will know who their mother is and was. They will also know when they're old enough what happened to her and that their father is the monster who took her from them. We will be there with them to carry them through the hard times and guide them through life as Madeline would have. And though the defendant's actions have shrouded us in darkness for a time, Madeline's light will never be extinguished. Her name and her loving, kind spirit will never be forgotten. Thank you.
Thank you.
Gosh, they're powerful, aren't they? No, of course, I've got to go now. I've got to go and get number one son, but I will be back in about half an hour and we'll do part two. I've just put, I mean, this is live. Obviously, you can watch it live if you want, but it's nice us watching it together. I'm pausing it and I'm going to go and collect my son. And then I will be back in about half an hour and we'll watch the rest of it, get the sentencing. I don't know if there's any more victim impacts to come or if that's the last one. Yeah. Oh, hi Tracy, I've got to go, but I'll be back in half an hour. So sorry, I've got to stop this. I just want to say thank you before I go to Seffi, who gifted 5 memberships, and Jean, who was very generous. Thank you so much. But I'm going to end the stream, but I'll be back in about 30 minutes and we'll carry on where we left off. See you soon. May you God go with you for half an hour.